I would want to talk about the education system in our county. It's broken. It's been broken for many, many years.
They're closing several schools right now before school starts, and it's just in a disarray.
Demanding racial justice in Robeson County.
Lumberton, for instance, had 3 water drinking fountains, white, colored, and Indian, 3 restrooms, movies. First time I ever bought a hamburger in Lumberton, it was from a white building, and they handed it out a window on the side, and on the front door had a metal sign that said white only.
Hold up. Instead, 17 people had been taken hostage inside the Robesonian.
Hatcher of the Tuscarora tribe had a list of 5 demands to then North Carolina Governor Jim Martin on behalf of what they called the Robeson Indian Movement.
Eddie Hatcher.
Eddie, this is Charlie Gaddy. How are you?
Well, it's a tense situation, and it's getting more tense by the hour. That dark's coming, and I'm afraid that they're going to make an unwise move.
Eddie, what kind of move? What will you do? I mean, what
will I do? Well, if they push it, then somebody's going to get hurt.
If the governor talks with you, what are you going to ask him?
I'm going to give him our demands, which are plain and simple and not extraordinary.
What are they? Can you tell me?
Yeah, I'll tell you. We
what
demand that the governor of North Carolina immediately initiate an investigation into the corrupt Robeson County government, including the Sheriff's Department, District Attorney Joe Freeman Britt, and the FBI agents in this area.
Timothy Jacobs and Eddie Hatcher entered the Robesonian newspaper in Lumberton. They were armed with several shotguns and a handgun and barricaded themselves inside with 17 hostages.
The man coming in the door last had a chain in his hand, and he chained the door.
Hours later, the 2 men surrender. The court orders them held without bond.
Monday's standoff ended with an agreement by the governor's office to investigate the claims of racial injustice here. Those claims directly involve Sheriff Hubert Stone and bring into question his fairness and his competence.
Finally, someone had taken action and set the stage for what was to come.
The Red Springs Police Department has been transformed into a command post, investigating what lawmen are calling the assassination of Julian Pierce.
On March 26, 1988, just 6 weeks after the takeover, a Lumbee lawyer in Robeson County was murdered.
I found him laying on the floor in a puddle of blood, where someone had apparently shot him with a shotgun.
And he wasn't just a lawyer. Julian Pierce was an activist.
Pierce had promised to improve treatment of Indians in Robeson County.
He'd spent his career providing legal services for low-income people, and he was investigating cocaine trafficking in the area that had ruined many young lives in his community. Specifically, Pierce told people close to him that he suspected Sheriff Hubert Stone and his officers were involved in the drug trade and that they were on the take.
Since the Pierce murder, some residents of Robeson County have claimed they've been threatened to keep quiet with information they know about drug trafficking here, or to be next. The FBI is investigating that.
If this didn't make him enough of a target, Pierce was also running for Superior Court judge against longtime Robeson County District Attorney Joe Freeman Britt. If that name sounds familiar to you, it should. We've talked with his distant cousin, Johnson Britt, who would go on to be the prosecutor in the James Jordan case. When reporter Scott Robb landed in Robeson County 5 years after the newspaper takeover to report on the Jordan murder, he met with Hatcher and Jacobs' families.
These were political acts to try and speak on behalf of the totally disempowered people. That's that.
Scott wanted to understand how the racial divide, overt racism, and allegations of corruption in the county might impact the Jordan case. After all, this is the same sheriff's department, the same sheriff, who now had a young black man and a young Lumbee man in his custody.
The minorities here cannot get justice through the legal systems, through law enforcement agencies.
The Red Springs Police Department has been transformed into a command post, investigating what lawmen are calling the assassination.
Review. I am granting pardons of innocence to Henry McCollum
and Leon Brown.
As brothers, they may be one of the most egregious examples of injustice ever seen in this state or any other. After spending 3 decades in prison for a murder they didn't commit.
Incidents like that plagued Britt's career and reputation in the community. So when the beloved Julian Pierce was shot 3 times in his home just weeks before he was supposed to face Britt at the polls, people didn't believe it was a random act of violence. Something was going on in Robeson County, even if it took years and destroyed many lives to get to the bottom of it.
And I publicly stated years back, after it all came to light, that perhaps Eddie Hatchell was right in what he alleged back in the 1980s about the corruption within the sheriff's office.
But even so, Britt and others say that while yes, there were systemic issues in law enforcement in Robeson County around the time of James Jordan's murder, the arrests, and the trial, there was no connection. That this case was untarnished by all that. For one thing, Hubert Stone was never indicted as part of Tarnish Badge or any other investigation. He retired in 1994.
I do solemnly and sincerely swear. You put on that badge, you took an oath to do right. And I will support the Constitution of the United States.
I took an oath when I became an officer. I broke that oath.
And I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina.
Yes, they were law enforcement officers, but in my book, no more than thugs with badges.
From a position of not having any supervision and basically having carte blanche authority to do whatever they wanted to do, they went wild.
This guy, this one here. The agency itself was corrupt from the top to the bottom.
And had more than 20 officers have to make the trip into federal court, not as investigators, but as defendants. There's very clearly a situation that the state government can't address adequately because of the rampant nature of it in the department.
The crack cocaine and the cocaine coming up I-95, really took root in Robeson County.
Harbor officers bought the drugs several times at a home on Happy Hill Road, that's just east of town. Authorities say a search of the home turned up fentanyl, cocaine, drug paraphernalia, and a stolen rifle.
Sky 5 captured this massive scene, which included multiple locations, 4 victims, and 1 suspect.
This was not needed.
To find out unsolved crimes in the area so I can cover on this channel. As some of you might or might not know, covering true crime on this channel is what I do. Then I Googled the most dangerous place in North Carolina, and a list of cities came up. What do you think the most dangerous city in North Carolina is? You'd probably think Charlotte, Raleigh, Durham, Fayetteville, North Carolina, but it's not none of them. The most dangerous city in North Carolina is Lumberton, North Carolina. This is in Robeson County, right off of I-95 in the southern part of the state. Why is this place the most dangerous city in North Carolina? Well, I've been doing a little digging. It seems like the city at one point was starting to decline. Around 2000, 2010, a lot of the manufacturing jobs started leaving the area. So around 2016, they had a bunch of freak weather storms, lots and lots of rain. They had the Lumber River here. And then they had Hurricane Matthew. And then a couple years later, they had Hurricane Florence. These hurricanes and these rains caused mass destruction in Lumberton. The rivers overflowed. There was levees there that broke, kind of like a mini Katrina moment here in Lumberton. A lot of residents displaced, a lot of economic damage, people losing all their property and their possessions. And then COVID hit in 2020. And that just made the problem even worse because they didn't necessarily rebuild from before. So crime in the last few years have skyrocketed in Lumberton, North Carolina. Lumberton, North Carolina, this is like the most dangerous city in North Carolina. This is more dangerous than 99% of the cities in the United States of America. Here, nice sign, right? Check the stat. Nice sign. All right, what do we got here? Now we got down by the river, the rail. Lumber River. Supposedly this is flooded, but now we're getting into, I believe, the bad sections of Lumberton. I'm going to make a left because they said south of Lumberton. Let's see what's going on there. Let's see why it's dangerous. Here we go. First thing I see right here is subsidized housing. This is sometimes known as the ghetto. Businesses not up. Looks like they're shut down. This looks like the ghetto. Every other business is boarded up. Look at this, boarded up, boarded up, boarded up. Look at this, boarded up. Everything's boarded up around here. Look at that, boarded up. It's all boarded up. But what makes this place so dangerous? That's the question.
Lady, and we are definitely covering some ground in Robeson County. I don't know why I find it so hard to say that word. I want to make it Robertson or Robinson, but it's Robeson, honey. I just like to say it like that for some reason. But yeah, we're covering a lot of history here, starting from the mid 50s, about 1958 with the Hayes Pond incident. Basically, it was a Native American standoff against the Klan. There were shots fired from both sides, but somehow, miraculously, no one was killed. But a line was definitely drawn in the sand. The Native people said they weren't going to let the Klan do to them in North Carolina what they had done to the tribes in South Carolina. Okay, let me give you a little bit of information concerning what I'm going to call the whitewashing of crime in Robeson County. We're going to go back to the mid 80s in 1986 under the leadership of Robeson County. And he also had as his deputy his son Kevin. The racial tensions were high. This place had become a major stop for cocaine dealers because it was literally halfway between New York and Miami, being 600 miles in each direction. You meet in Robeson County. In fact, that was the term, meet me in Robeson County. It was unreal, the amount of corruption that was going on. In 1986, an incident happened where cocaine disappeared from the evidence room. Now, a deputy was charged with this but acquitted. And what really raised the suspicion of the public was that Sheriff Stone went to court and wrote letters asking for the release of not just this guy, but two people who had bought large quantities of marijuana and cocaine from undercover agents. Why? Yeah, we don't know. And as I said before, Sheriff Stone was never indicted. He was allowed to retire and die a peaceful life on taxpayers' money. There are people who stood up and said, oh, he was just an old gentleman, and tried to pretend like he was somehow oblivious to what was going on, but it was huge. It was massive. And it took not just the agencies in the state, but they had to call in the FBI to come in to fix the situation. Now, concerning what happened in 86 was there was a man at the same time that got pulled over, a lumpy gentleman, and during the traffic stop, he was shot and killed. Guess who did it? Kevin Stone. At the same time, the Lumbees and other tribes formed a coalition called Concerned Citizens for Better Government, CCBG. The CCBG was an activist group that was highly concerned with the mistreatment of the minorities. About the same time, there was a man named Hunt. He worked for the FBI, the State Bureau of Investigation. A man named Hatcher, who was an informant and a drug dealer, happened to find a map that belonged to this guy Hunt. He was on it. He was concerned, am I going to get busted now? So he went to the CCBG, he went to some attorneys that represent natives, and they were telling him, just don't do anything about it. You're just going to attract some really bad company if you get into this. So just drop it. They're not after you. They tried to console him, but he was paranoid. He was worried. He was aware that the native people are mistreated. Very much so. He himself was an activist, and he had met a friend in activist circles. Upon hearing about a young black man who had died in the care of Robeson County police, he was not given good treatment. He was not denied his medication for asthma. As a result, he died, and it really caused Hatcher to snap. He enlisted the aid of his friend Timothy Jacobs, and they decided to lay siege of the Robinson newspaper. And that's exactly what they did. So they decided that this was the way that they would be heard. It's a shame that people have to get so desperate just to be protected and treated fairly by the government. But that's what these guys did. Jacobs and Hatcher ended up holding hostage somewhere between 17 and 19 people. A couple people escaped early on, and one reporter actually slipped into a dark room where he called the police in Raleigh and got the law on it, and about 100 police units showed up for this takeover. They held these 17 people hostage for about 10 hours. Something happened that was unusual, and in a sense it was God's provision, because a representative just happened to call the newspaper. His name is Rose. He was calling on an unrelated story, but of course got wind of what was going on there, and was just shocked, appalled, looked into it, and called the feds into the investigation. And that was the beginning of the Tarnished Badge operation that took down the 22 officers. Did it clean it up? I don't think so. The prejudice, the injustice, this has been going on for centuries.
I really want to thank each and every one of you for sticking with me through this video as we together delve into the deep, dark history of Robeson County. In part 3, yes, there will be a part 3, we are going to pay honor to the victims of the unsolved murders. So many have been written off as self-unalivings, and it's just to sweep the dirt under the rug, and I say expose the darkness. Bring light to the subject. And I want to pay honor and tribute each family as well in a small way. As we delve deeper into the Mica Francis case, which I believe is an unsolved murder, I want to thank you so much for your time, for your patience, and just for you being you. Take care and God bless, and I'll see you in the next video.